Hello, well of life. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Noel Francis, and I'm absolutely delighted to bring you today's devotion. We'll be reading from Exodus chapter 14, verse 5 and 6. While you get to the scripture, let me just give you a quick background of what's happening there. So, God is leading his people, the Israelites, to the promised land via a detour to confuse Pharaoh and his mates so that he can bring them to justice. And as that happens, we read, when word reached the king of Egypt that the Israelites had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds. What have we done letting all those Israelite slaves get away? They asked. So Pharaoh harnessed his chariot and called up his troops. He took with him 600 of Egypt's best chariots, along with the rest of the chariots of Egypt, each with its commander. What madness, right? While I was meditating on these two verses, I felt like God asked me this question: who are you in this passage? I mean, what a strange question to ask, right? Who could I be? I've always imagined to be the good one. I've imagined to be the one on God's side. I've always felt like I was David and not Goliath in the story. But here I realized God wanted me to imagine myself as Pharaoh. And when I did, I went back to verse 5 where they say, what have we done letting all those Israelite slaves get away? And then I started realizing that these people were delusional. It was like they had this hangover of plagues, and now that the plagues were over, they felt like everything was temporary and now they could go back to their old ways. You know, we see a similar pattern even today. Just when we find that remedy, just when things get back to normal, we see the world going back to its old ways, not paying attention or not remembering to what God had said in the time of tests. Why? Because the hardships have now gone. But you know what are the dangers of going back to our old ways? Sometimes we may go back to those areas or territories, or may go back to doing some things that God had restricted us from doing or visiting in our times of test. And that's when we experience or see such madness. Verse 7 says, he harnessed his chariot and called up his troops. He took with him 600 of Egypt's best chariot, along with the rest of the chariots of Egypt, each with its commander. Now I could almost feel Pharaoh's anger, pride, and ignorance coming together, fueling him to go and get the Israelites back. And the funny part is, if you just go 2 chapters back, you read that he had summoned Moses after the 10th plague and asked him to be gone with the Israelites because he could not take it anymore. You know what, friends? I feel like the best movies are the ones that are left with an open ending. I want to also leave today with an open ending. I want you to ask you the same question that God asked me. Who are you in your story? Do you find traces of Pharaoh in your life? Do you feel sometimes you're being a Goliath in your own journey with the Lord? Ask God that question. And ask him to highlight those areas you need to work on and things you need to get completely rid of while you navigate through this pandemic. So that when you enter the new season, and I'm convinced we all will, you will be ready to receive the gifts and the tools he has prepared for you to carry his word into the world. God bless you, well of life.